the most expensive player of all time, with a glittering trophy haul and a Brazilian legacy that will forever stay. Now deemed by some as one of the biggest wastes of talent in football history. So where did it all go wrong for Neymar, and has he sealed his own fate by joining Al Hilal in the Saudi League? Let's head back in time and see how we got to this point, from Barca to Santos, even to his childhood. Let's start with how it all began, with a brief look at his early age and family. Neymar was born in Sao Paulo to Nadine da Silva and Neymar Santos Sr., whose name he inherited and takes to this day. Neymar Sr. was also a footballer, but was not quite at the level of his son, and was more known as a journeyman in the lower leagues in Brazil. His career unfortunately ended due to injury, and since then he has done everything that he can to make Neymar's life as a footballer the dream come true. As Neymar Jr. did not have the best upbringing, his parents were not close to rich, and they couldn't even afford an ultrasound before his birth. He was also involved in the same car accident that ended his father's playing career, and going through infant years without even having electricity in their home. So his father worked as hard as he possibly could, 3 jobs at a time as a labourer, mechanic and a salesman, to keep everything afloat and try to let Neymar live out his unfortunately halted dream of being a footballer in Brazil. So let's take a look at how it all started in Neymar's youth. Growing up with his father as a footballer, obviously Neymar's dream was to replicate him, but try and become even bigger and better for Brazil. And so from a very young age, you saw Neymar joining these youth teams and standing out amongst the rest. Whether it be at school, whether it be in futsal, he was clearly a top talent, and ended up starting his youth career at Portuguesa Santista, a team that plied its trade in the Sao Paulo State Football League. And once again, Neymar stood out amongst the rest as just a clear talent and a potential superstar. Neymar spent just over 3 years of his youth career at Santista, where he stood out amongst the rest due to his technique, speed of thought, ability to perform in tight spaces, and his overall flair. If you're standing out at this level, then obviously the bigger teams are going to be scouting for youth players, and one team came and plucked Neymar. Santos. One of the most iconic teams in the history of football, Santos is a Brazilian league team based in Sao Paulo, winning the Brasileiro 8 times, 3 Copa Libertadores and many more titles. The club is also known for some of the greats that have played there over the years, with the most notable being the footballing icon that is Pelé. He led one of the greatest teams in history during the 1960s, where Santos dominated every competition that they played in. So for a team of this magnitude to want Neymar at such a young age was a massive moment for him and his family. Neymar was part of the youth setup at Santos from 2003 to 2009 until being promoted to the first team at the age of just 17, where his ability shone on the big stage. He would go on to score 14 goals in 48 games in his debut season for the club, and things would only get better for Neymar. In 2010, he scored 14 goals in 19 games to help Santos claim the Campeonato Paulista, and teams around the world would start to take notice, with West Ham having a £12 million bid turned down, as well as a following £20 million offer from Chelsea. But it wasn't only clubs that were interested in Neymar, it was time for him to make his debut for Brazil. At only the age of 18 in 2010, Neymar made his Brazil debut, and it could not have gone any better. He got a goal. It was the up-and-coming starlet of Neymar that was hopefully going to push this next generation of Brazil going forward, and that he did. Let's take a moment to look at what he has achieved in a legacy that will live on forever. In 2013, Neymar was part of the squad that won the 2013 Confederations Cup in Brazil, beating Spain in the final, and he got the golden ball for the player of the tournament. He made his World Cup breakthrough in 2014 for Brazil, however in the quarter-final win over Colombia suffered a big back injury which ruled him out for the rest of the tournament. Brazil would go on to fail to win that World Cup. Neymar would go on to become Brazil captain and win Olympic gold for his country for the first time in their history. Brazil would go on to continue to fail to impress at big tournaments, becoming runner-ups in the Copa America and getting knocked out in the quarterfinals of the 2 ensuing World Cups. But a humongous milestone for Neymar as he tied Pelé to become Brazil's joint all-time top goal scorer. But the year after his Brazil debut in 2010, we head back to Santos for a massive personal milestone in 2011. The Puskas Award. Neymar had all the hype at this moment in time, but it only grew after scoring this Puskas winning goal. It starts with a crazy dribble on the wing to get past 2 players before playing a 1-2 with his forward, picking up the ball, another incredible piece of skill, and dinking the ball over the goalkeeper for a crazy goal. This netted Neymar at a young age his very own Puskas Award and only built up the hype that would grow and grow until a couple of summers later, when Neymar would get his dream transfer to Barcelona. A transfer that would go down in history as one of the best of all time. 88 million euros seems like a bargain for Neymar from Santos to Barcelona. His stats in his first season for a youngster still were amazing. 30 goal involvements in 41 appearances. A dream start for Neymar in European football, including his first goals in the Champions League, which were a hat-trick against Celtic. Barcelona fans hadn't been this excited about a big money signing in a while, and there were going to be obvious comparisons to a certain other Brazilian. Ronaldinho. One of the greatest Barcelona players of all time, the Brazilian made so many people fall in love with football. He always played with a smile on his face, and the flair that he showed in his dribbling ability was second to none. He was absolutely incredible and is an icon of football. So when Neymar arrived and was pulling off the same kind of tricks as Ronaldinho had in the past, it was a flashback to the greatness that once was. And when you compare the stats at the end of it, some could argue that Neymar even surpassed the great Ronaldinho, partly down to what was coming in the next season. The MSN trio. With Suarez joining Barcelona alongside Neymar and Messi, the MSN trio was born. And this is one of, if not the greatest footballing forward lines we will ever see. They were in sync. Everything they did worked. The build-up play, the assists, the goals, it was incredible. The stats that these three got together as part of this forward line were just otherworldly, absolutely unbelievable numbers. And Barcelona were a joy to watch when Messi, Neymar and Suarez were having the time of their lives together. Of course, this would mean lots of success for the club, including the Champions League. The most coveted trophy in club football is the UEFA Champions League. And through this incredible trio of Messi, Neymar and Suarez, Barcelona achieved the UCL final victory. With a 3-1 win over Juventus in 2015, the club achieved the dream treble winners. League, main Spanish Cup, and the UCL. It just showed the levels of what this team could achieve, with not just one star player, but three. However, after a couple of years of incredible success together, there were murmurings about a possible fallout. In a team that contains the greatest player of all time, it's always going to be hard to stand out and prove your worth. But as shown over the last couple of seasons, Neymar was an incredible talent. But rumours started to surface that he wasn't happy and that he was uncomfortable being in Lionel Messi's shadow and just not getting the plaudits that he felt he deserved. Others concurred with this and felt like Neymar had to go and do his own thing and prove that he wasn't just good because he was playing with these incredible teammates. Dani Alves was a key spokesperson in talking about Neymar being in this shadow. And after an incredible rise through the ranks and an incredibly successful few years at Barcelona, this prompted a mega transfer to PSG. The most expensive transfer of all time, 222 million euros. PSG came in and broke the release clause for Neymar from Barcelona. And the league was so unhappy with this, they thought that PSG were breaking FFP. They refused it and the club were actually paid directly, which was completely out of the norm. But everything went through in the end, and PSG got their star man, and would then go on to sign Kylian Mbappe in the same window, initially on loan before another mega money deal. This was the chance for Neymar to prove his worth and show that he could carry PSG to that league and maybe even a Champions League. And alongside Mbappe and Cavani up front, he had a new trio of attacking options. PSG went on to win the domestic treble that year, so it was successful for Neymar. However, he did pick up an injury in February and missed the remainder of the season. A great goal scoring record though, with 28 goals in 30 matches in his debut season. But this was unfortunately the start of a worrying trend. Neymar's injuries. After joining PSG, Neymar would sustain numerous lengthy injuries, and these kept him out of multiple seasons. Big injuries that were picked up around the new year and going into February and March were a recurring theme, and he would miss months and months, significantly as they were getting into the later stages of Champions League and league campaigns, leading some people to believe that he was cursed around his sister's birthday and that he would always be injured around this time. And if you look at the timeline here, it does add up quite a lot of injuries around that time of year. Neymar missed so many games throughout his time at PSG through injury that the question has to be asked whether this was a massive stunt on him potentially achieving the greatness that he set out to hit when leaving Barcelona. Neymar was brought in for one main thing: get PSG a Champions League title. But it just was not meant to be. And PSG were just not hitting the heights that they wanted to. They brought in Pochettino in 2021 and ended up losing out on the league title behind Lille, seen as a massive failure for the club, getting knocked out in the semi-finals of the Champions League against Manchester City, following a season where they made the Champions League final and lost 1-0 against Bayern Munich. It was so close yet so far for Neymar, and so PSG had one last idea to help him and Mbappe lift that coveted trophy: Lionel Messi. Adding the GOAT of football to a front line consisting of Neymar and Mbappe seemed like one of the craziest transfers of all time, and surely they would win anything and everything in their way. Messi was forced out of Barcelona due to money issues, and PSG managed to take him on a free transfer. Not quite hitting the goal targets that he'd hit in previous years, but also having a good season in terms of assists and chances created. Messi was a solid signing. However, with this front three, the rest of the team were not functional enough. And so despite a reunion of Neymar with one of his best mates in football and one of the best partnerships we've ever seen, it still wasn't enough for PSG to win the Champions League. And there were now more murmurs rumbling about Neymar. Another breakdown with Neymar involving Mbappe this time. A fiery feud between the two that was evident on and off the pitch. One penalty incident highlighted this lack of communication between each other and the frustration shown. Mbappe said that it was a hot and cold relationship, and was this the case of Neymar going into another player's shadow, supposedly leaving Barcelona to relieve himself of the pressure of playing with Messi, but now Mbappe becoming this worldwide superstar and taking the limelight off of Neymar once again. This fueled lots and lots of speculation for multiple windows in a row that Neymar would be leaving PSG. But was he successful there? These are his overall stats from his time at PSG. Some great records, of course, but the main aim was to become this superstar, potentially winning a Ballon d'Or and winning the Champions League, and he has failed to do that. Despite having some incredible teammates around him, he hasn't been able to make it happen. So what next for Neymar? All the rumblings were that Neymar was going to have a sensational return to Barcelona, where he flourished and put his name in the spotlight for everybody in Europe to see and love. He had such an incredible time there, it would be a fairy tale return after a slightly disappointing time over in France. And talks were that a 2-year deal had all been agreed, and that Barca were doing everything they could to afford it to bring him back. However, it all seemed to fall apart and one of the most crazy transfers ever, once again involving Neymar, has happened. Ever since Cristiano Ronaldo transferred to the Saudi League, it has just got bigger and bigger, with more and more crazy signings including Kante, Karim Benzema, Mane, a load of players that you would have seen playing at the very top of Europe in the last years of their career are now moving to Saudi Arabia to get paid shed loads to play over there. And Al Hilal have managed to convince Neymar to do the same. Which, if you read and believe all of the perks and the amounts that he's going to be paid whilst he's out there, you can understand it. But is this Neymar throwing away his career? He's 31. A lot of the other players that are going there are maybe 35 plus. He is comfortably still good enough to play in the Champions League. So what is going on here with Neymar? Will his level drastically decline in the 2-year deal that he is out there in Saudi Arabia? And has this been the icing on the cake of a lackluster superstar career from one of the best players of this generation? The final question to ask on Neymar is, what's next? At the age of 31, he is signing a 2-year deal for Al Hilal, which means he'll still only be 33 once he has had his time out there, collected all of his money, and has decided what to do next. Could another sensational attempt by Barcelona to make him return there happen? Will he explore something else in Europe? Could he end up in the Premier League? I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on how Neymar's spectacular career will come to a close. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more. I'll see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.